Nothing exploded. No alarms went off. No emergency meetings were called. Instead, something far more dangerous happened. Silver started disappearing. Quietly, no headlines, no breaking news banners, just vault transfers, inventory shifts, and silent moves by institutions that never panic in public, but always act first. Over the last few years, something has been unfolding inside the silver market that most people still don't get. And that misunderstanding is exactly why what's coming will catch so many off guard. Because when the system moves silently, it's never for small reasons. This isn't about today's price, it's not about charts, and it's definitely not about speculation. It's about behavior. And when banks change their behavior, the rules of the game are about to change. JP Morgan doesn't hoard assets by accident. They don't miscalculate long-term supply chains. And they certainly don't stockpile metals they expect to become irrelevant. When silver starts moving inward instead of outward, it tells a story most people aren't listening to. So let's rewind and understand what's actually happening. Not emotionally, not politically, but structurally. Because what's happening with silver right now follows a pattern that has played out many times in history, and every single time it ends the same way. For decades, silver was treated like a side character in global finance. Gold was the monetary asset. Oil was strategic. Copper was industrial. Silver was, well, complicated. It was traded heavily on paper markets, used everywhere but respected nowhere. That worked as long as silver was abundant, cheap, and easy to get. But the world that allowed that illusion is disappearing. Silver today is no longer just an industrial input. It is embedded into the very infrastructure of modern civilization. Solar energy, electric vehicles, advanced semiconductors, military systems, medical technology, satellites, data centers, they all depend on silver's unique physical properties. And unlike most resources, silver has one brutal limitation. There is no substitute. Copper oxidizes, aluminum underperforms. Synthetic alternatives fail at scale. You cannot engineer your way around the periodic table. Every attempt to reduce silver usage eventually hits a brick wall. That wall isn't theoretical. Manufacturers have already hit it. Yet, while demand has become non-negotiable, supply has quietly stagnated. That imbalance is the seed of every resource crisis. But resource crises don't begin with price explosions. They begin with quiet accumulation. This is where institutions like JP Morgan matter. Banks don't think like investors. They think like systems. When they hold something, it's not because they hope it goes up tomorrow. It's because holding it improves their position in scenarios where systems fail, liquidity freezes, or the rules change. Silver fits that profile perfectly. Physical silver is collateral. It's leverage. It's insurance. And in a world where financial assets are increasingly digital, physical scarcity becomes power. Over the last several years, silver inventories tracked within exchange systems have been trending down, not dramatically in a single moment, but persistently. At the same time, silver flows into private custodial vaults have increased. That divergence is not random. It means metal is leaving the public market and entering controlled hands. This matters because the silver market operates on a dangerous illusion, the idea that paper and physical are interchangeable. They are not. For every single ounce of physical silver available, more than 100 ounces trade in paper form. Futures, swaps, ETFs, derivatives, unallocated accounts, all promises tied to the same finite pool of metal. That system functions only under one condition. Most participants must never ask for delivery, and historically, most never do, until suddenly, some do. When industrial users and institutions begin prioritizing guaranteed access over price efficiency, everything changes. They don't buy on exchanges. They bypass them. They secure long-term agreements directly with producers, refiners, and vaults. This removes supply without changing the price at first. That's the most dangerous phase, because prices stay calm while availability quietly vanishes. To understand why this is so critical, you need to understand how silver is produced. Unlike gold, silver is not primarily mined for its own sake. Over 70% of silver comes as a byproduct of copper, lead, and zinc mining. That means silver supply depends on the health of other commodity markets. If copper demand weakens, less silver gets mined. If zinc margins shrink, silver output falls. If mining investment slows, silver suffers automatically. You cannot just decide to mine more silver. New mines take a decade to develop. The capital requirements are enormous. Regulatory pressure is increasing worldwide. Environmental permitting alone can delay projects for years. Meanwhile, demand is accelerating right now. Renewable energy policies alone require massive amounts of silver. Solar installations are not optional, they are mandated. Electric infrastructure expansion is locked into law. Defense spending is rising globally, not falling. This creates a unique scenario. Demand is rigid, supply is inflexible, and markets like that don't correct smoothly. They snap. History shows this clearly. In the early 2000s, palladium was overlooked. until Russia quietly restricted exports. Supply tightened, but prices didn't immediately react. Then industrial buyers realized the metal wasn't arriving. When delivery failed, panic replaced logic. Prices exploded. Exchanges intervened. Contracts were settled in cash instead of metal. Paper holders learned a brutal lesson about counterparty risk. The people who held physical didn't need permission. Silver has all the ingredients to follow the same path, but on a much larger scale. Because silver isn't a niche metal. It's woven into multiple industries simultaneously. When shortages hit, it won't be one sector screaming. It will be many. This is why banking behavior matters more than headlines. JP Morgan has deep historical exposure to precious metals. They understand delivery risk. They understand system stress. When they shift their posture from distribution to retention, they are not speculating. They are preparing. Banks don't hoard useless assets. They hoard things that matter when confidence breaks. And confidence is fragile right now. Sovereign debt levels are unsustainable. Currency systems are stretched. Global trade is fragmenting. In that environment, assets that are tangible, scarce, and essential gain strategic value. Silver checks every single box. One of the most misunderstood aspects of silver is its dual identity. It is both a monetary metal and an industrial metal. That makes it uniquely volatile and uniquely dangerous to ignore. When industrial demand tightens supply, monetary interest amplifies the move. When investment demand rises, industrial users can't simply stop buying. They are contractually obligated and technologically dependent. The feedback loop creates nonlinear outcomes. In simple terms, silver doesn't rise gradually under pressure. It gaps. And when it gaps, access matters more than price. Now look at what governments are doing. Around the world, countries are reclassifying critical resources. Strategic inventories are being expanded quietly. Export controls are becoming normalized. Resource nationalism is no longer taboo. It's policy. Silver fits neatly into this framework. Not because it's flashy, but because it's irreplaceable. Countries that secure supply early gain industrial stability. Those that don't become import dependent at the worst possible moment. This isn't theoretical. It's already happening across other commodities. Silver is just later to the party. The most dangerous phase of any resource crisis is the calm before recognition. That's where we are right now. Prices haven't exploded, which creates complacency. The media ignores it because panic hasn't arrived. Analysts dismiss it because models lag reality. But systems don't fail when everyone's watching. They fail quietly first. Then suddenly, at some point, and no one can tell you the exact moment, something small will break. A delivery delay, a refinery bottleneck, a government announcement, a corporate earnings call admitting supply constraints. That's when the narrative flips. Suddenly, silver isn't abundant anymore. Suddenly, ETFs don't sound as reassuring. Suddenly, physical premiums explode. At that point, banks won't sell. They'll ration. Mints will pause. Dealers will go dark. Paper markets will continue trading, but increasingly divorced from reality. And people will ask the wrong question. How high can silver go? When the real question is, can I get any at all? This is why institutional behavior matters more than retail excitement. By the time the public reacts, the metal is already spoken for. That's how every shortage works. Oil in the 1970s, rare earths in 2010, semiconductors in 2021. The pattern never changes. Only the asset does. This is not financial advice. This is pattern recognition. And the pattern says that silver is transitioning from a traded commodity into a controlled resource. Banks understand this. Governments understand this. Industries understand this. The only group consistently left behind is the public. Not because they're unintelligent, but because systems hide stress until it's too late to act calmly. JP Morgan isn't hiding silver out of greed. They're holding it because holding it gives them options in a world that's losing flexibility. That's the signal. Something big is happening. Not tomorrow, not in one headline, but structurally. And structural changes don't reverse easily. When this becomes obvious, it will be framed as a surprise. It won't be. The signs are already here for anyone willing to look past price charts and into behavior. Scarcity doesn't announce itself loudly. It whispers until it doesn't. And by the time the whisper turns into a scream, the window is closed. Pay attention. Not to the noise, not to the hype, but to the silence. Because that's where the real shifts begin. Thanks for watching.